The 14th year of Chenghua. Chapter 113. Wujiang. The other man was probably used to riding out litter, as it was only a few steps from the bureau to the city gate, yet Chen Luan was already gasping for air. It wasn't until Tang Fan was right in front of him that he forced out a smile. "Please wait a bit, sir. Dare I ask if you're the left metropolitan censor, Tang Fan?" Tang Fan raised a brow. "And you are?" Chen Luan quickly cupped his hands. "This humble official is Wujiang's magistrate, Chen Luan. I pay my respects to you, sir." Tang Fan's smile was fake. "Magistrate Chen, I am neither wearing an official uniform nor have I made my identity known. How are you so certain that I'm Tang Fan? Wouldn't it be a laugh if you recognized the wrong person? You have a dragon's cadence, a Feng Guang's poise, and extraordinary looks, like a crane amongst chickens. Anyone can plainly see that you're not an average civilian." This humble official heard that the court was sending a censor to inspect the disaster situation, so I instructed the soldiers at the gates long before to pay close attention, letting me rush over quickly. He was not too old, seeming to be only in his early 30s, and his facial features were straight and neat, which gave one a sense of goodwill. He had the model look of a young, intelligent, competent official. Even though the imperial exam system had long grown and matured from the great Ming's founding to this date, and people of humble origins could test into the provincials and become officials, generally speaking, those from wealthier families were able to get more resources, hire famous teachers, be guided by their elders, and enter known academies. Their probabilities of passing the test were much higher than the average person's. Take Tang Fan, for instance. Despite his family having fallen, they had still been influential, and he had been well educated since his childhood. Chen Luan was beyond that. His uncle was Nanjing's Minister of Revenue, and he himself was an official, which illustrated that the Chen family was at least a scholarly family spanning 3 generations, and very likely a family of officials. Circumstances like that were all over the great Ming's bureaucracy. Therefore, even though Chen Luan was a 7th-rank magistrate, him having such an outstanding presence was not strange. After hearing his explanation, Tang Fan only smiled, saying nothing more. Chen Luan had been anticipating questions, but Censor Tang was instead abnormally collected, so he had to continue. "You came a long distance for this assignment, sir, and this humble official should put all of my effort into entertaining you, but Wujiang suffered a huge disaster last year and its vitality is greatly injured to the point that it hasn't yet recovered. If I slight you in any way, please forgive me." Tang Fan nodded. "That's fine. You are the host, so you're naturally the one in charge. Whatever you arrange is what we will go with. How about I take you to first see the situation of the refugee settlement, then?" Tang Fan raised his brows. Following his arrival at Suzhou, of the 3 people he had met, Prefectural Magistrate Hu Wenzhao avoided seeing him, patrolling Censor Yang Ji wasn't present, and the Wujiang Magistrate, the one at the heart of the turmoil, had been the one to bring up taking him to see the refugees. Quite forthcoming, with no schemes at all to cover up or whitewash. Their eyes met. Chen Luan's did not shy away, gazing back the same with a slight smile, which brought with it an inquiring undertone. A 7th-rank county magistrate and a 4th-rank prefectural magistrate, the superior one appeared to be immediately evident. Tang Fan smiled. "Please lead the way then, Magistrate Chen." "If you please, Master Tang." Chen Luan brought them to the city's south, to what had originally been an abandoned temple that was now cleaned up, the Buddha statues and such inside accordingly tidied as well, turning it into a charity hall. The former monk quarters had been all torn down so that more beds could be set up. Of course, these were simple beds, nothing more than straw mats laid out on the floor which people would lay on and cover with blankets. Still, for these refugees that used to not have a roof to shield them and now had this place doing so, and could eat their fill plus be warm in clothes, this was already a paradise. When Tang Fan's group came over, it happened to be lunchtime. After people that had been sent from the government cooked congee, it was delivered, and the refugees queued up, holding their bowls and awaiting their turns. It was not at all the wailing, miserable scene Tang Fan had imagined it would be. This congee is served up twice a day, once at noon and once at night, Chen Luan explained. The number of refugees has decreased by a lot. Since the start of this year, many have begun to return home in succession, so it's nice and orderly now. There were several incidents of injuring and stealing from people to get more food before. Tang Fan nodded. Looking at the bowls held by the refugees that passed by, he lightly creased his brow. That congee looks a little too thin. The other smiled painfully. I must tell you that what could be diverted from the county's granary has already been diverted, sir. The remaining had to be given to Nanjing for taxes, meaning it's long been emptied out. If you don't believe me, I can take you over to it for a look. Tang Fan didn't speak to him, instead grabbing an old man that was passing by. Elder, where are you from? The old man looked up to see Tang Fan, then the uniform-wearing Chen Luan, and shakily went to kneel and bow. Tang Fan didn't let him do that, readily keeping him up. No need for too much politeness, elder. Where are you from? This commoner fled the famine outside the city. It was thanks to this county benefactor's compassion that it opened its city gates to let us in, giving us shelter and preventing us from starving to death. Now that the benefactor is here, please accept this commoner's praises. Saying so, he kowtowed in respect. Chen Luan helped him up with a slight smile. Did you not hear Master Tang say to not be so polite, elder? This was what the county should have done, and as a guardian official, what I should have done. The elder only agreed, looking reserved as he gripped the bowl and dared not speak any more. Seeing that he didn't know what to do, Tang Fan let him go, asking Chen Luan, did Suzhou Prefecture not allocate provisions? Chen Luan shook his head. It wasn't enough at all. To tell you the truth, Wu County was also hit by the disaster, and because it's where the prefecture is governed out of, it has higher priority. In result, our Wujiang was basically the stepchild, and we were given only about 30 shi of provisions. Tang Fan furrowed his brow. Why so little? These are all things that can be verified. This way, please. He brought Tang Fan to the county granary, then ordered the door to be opened. Tang Fan immediately saw that the interior was truly empty, with not even half a grain of rice in it. Chen Luan then brought the grain registry out for his viewing. Behind the portion where Suzhou Prefecture's allocated provisions were, 300 shi had plainly been written down. How many more days can the provisions still be given to the refugees? About 3, probably. After that, what do you plan on doing? This humble official plans to lend grains from merchants in the county. Also, now that the lake water has receded, the fields can be replanted, so I'm getting ready to have the refugees persuaded to return. There's only a few hundred people remaining, after all, making it a little easier, and if they can go home, people generally wouldn't be willing to be dead mice here, apart from the local hoodlums. That's why I only need to borrow a few days' worth of supplies. Are the merchants willing to? Chen Luan laughed. They aren't, of course, but I intimidated and enticed them. I can always make them dredge some up. Tang Fan laughed, too. You're quite the competent official, Hanja. Before, he had called him Magistrate Chen on official business, and now he had changed it to his courtesy, immediately getting much closer to him. It also indirectly portrayed his stance. Chen Luan cupped his hands. I dare not accept your praise, sir. This falls within my duties and is nothing more than me being devoted to my post. Tang Fan pat him on the shoulder. Loyalty is a word that's easy to say, but hard to do. How many officials fail to abide by it? You doing this much really wasn't easy. After I go back, I will report nothing but the truth, rather than allow you to be wronged. Chen Luan smiled. Your words are too weighty, sir. The prefectural magistrate hasn't had it easy either, as several counties were hit by the disaster. There inevitably comes to be different priorities, which this humble official can understand. As far as I'm aware, though, Wujiang and Wu were the worst affected areas. Moreover, Wu's refugees heard that there was more kanji supplied over in Wujiang, and hence all came over here. Was that true? They did indeed have extravagant hopes, which is why we're so overtaxed here. If we weren't, then with our typical amount, the granary's provisions would have been enough. It was precisely because of this that Yang Ji denounced me, but after I explained this to him, he didn't wrangle much more with me. Tang Fan nodded. I will go look for him to verify that. Chen Luan brought him around the city's south side, answered many questions completely methodically, and caused the smile on Tang Fan's face to get all the more friendly. Compared to the extraordinarily talkative and decorous Chen Luan, the flustered-in movements, very weird acting Hu Wenzhao was not only inferior but appeared to be extremely suspicious. Tang Fan stayed in Wujiang for a meal. Chen Luan's treatment was quite simple. He didn't go overboard, but what he offered could not be described as shabby either. Chen Luan, Tang Fan, Lu Lingzi, Qian San'er, and the few accompanying Chen Luan had 7 dishes and 1 soup together. It was all common fare, yet very delicious. Regardless of official status, Tang Fan and Chen Luan had similar life experiences, giving the two a lot to talk about. The host and guests were quite happy during the feast, everything being peaceful. Following the meal, Tang Fan rejected Chen Luan's offer of accompaniment, stating that he would look around when in the county again, and had Chen Luan go back to his proper business without needed to escort him. The latter did not insist, leaving after a few pleasantries. Watching Chen Luan's back, Qian San'er sighed with a happy grin. That's the bearing of an honorable official. This lowly one thinks that he's a little comparable to you, sir. Tang Fan turned to Lu Lingzi. How do you see him? Highly suspicious. Right. Tang Fan put away his smile, expression turning serious. He did not hold up his recent appearance of being as warm as a spring breeze. He's likely even more difficult to handle than Hu Wenzhao. Qian San'er was confused. Sir, what's suspicious about him? He hadn't been able to tell at all. In his eyes, Chen Luan's words and actions had been normal, much better than Hu Wenzhao's. Lu Lingzi was the one to speak. He knew when we had entered the city immediately. If it was as he claimed, where he had long known that we might come and thus had the soldiers at the city gate keep an eye out, I wouldn't believe it at all, because were that true, then as early as the gates themselves, the soldiers would have directly barred Brother Tang's way and invited Chen Luan to meet him. Now, it's obvious that he had sent people to track us beforehand, which is why he knew our location so easily. That point is enough to say that his motives are impure, and he didn't tell us the truth. Tang Fan nodded. Correct. There's another thing, I saw that when we were in the charity hall, those refugees' clothes were neat and tidy. They had obviously been newly changed into. No matter how good the conditions of a charity hall are, there is absolutely no justification for a government to pay for refugees' clothing. Do you all remember what happened when I stopped and questioned that elder? Seeing them both nod, he smiled. Did you notice anything off about him? Qian San'er scratched his head. He really hadn't paid attention to such fine details, so he couldn't answer. He acted a bit odd, Lu Lingzi said. He had been uncomfortable at first, yet was abnormally smooth in his answers, as if he had memorized them ahead of time. I also saw him look at Chen Luan from time to time. Were it said that he was a citizen that had never seen the county magistrate before and wanted to look at him a few more times due to the novelty, that would be fine, but the look in his eyes was really bizarre. It felt like. He furrowed his brow to think of a fitting description, but Tang Fan picked it up. Like he was looking at Chen Luan for cues. Lu Lingzi clapped. Right, that's it. You're really as fine-tuned as a hare, and leave no scheme unconsidered. Tang Fan had already grown numb to his frequent praise. Strictly speaking, Lu Lingzi wasn't a flatterer, and even if he was, his skills at flattery were way too clumsy. Actually, if he was flattering him, it would be fine, but he was full of sincerity and perseverance, needing to express a dizzying amount of reverence towards Tang Fan whenever he had the opportunity. After a few bouts of it, Tang Fan had long learned to just pretend not to hear him. He shot him a look. "Yuking. What are your orders, brother Tang?" Tang Fan's expression was mild. "You must have known earlier that someone was watching for our location." Instead of denying it, Lu Lingzi happily confessed. "Yep." Tang Fan frowned. "Then why didn't you say so earlier?" "I thought you knew so from the start, and just didn't want to alert the enemy," the other answered innocently. Tang Fan glared at him. The latter, both innocent and aggrieved, brought out some favor-currying words. "But you never asked before. From now on, whatever you want to know, I'll tell you, all right." Tang Fan went quiet for a short moment. "Then, what else do you know?" "There were two groups watching us outside of the post house and they followed us all the way here." "Two groups?" Tang Fan asked, raising his brows. Lu Lingzi nodded, certain. "Two groups? Are you sure they weren't of the same affiliation?" "They aren't. You know as well that martial arts practitioners always have keener senses than ordinary people. One of the groups is likely on Chen Luan's side and the other, I'm not sure. Could it be the Eastern Depot?" "That's a possibility." Tang Fan thought for a short moment. "Let's head back, then." Qian San'er was startled, still a bit puzzled. "Where are we going?" "Back to Wu County, and then we'll come back here." As for what they would be doing back in Wu, Tang Fan didn't explain. However, when they returned to Wu's post house, he was informed that Yang Ji had returned and came to pay him a visit. End chapter. The 14th year of Chenghua. Chapter 114. The city's west. "Where is he now?" Tang Fan asked the post house worker. "Censor Yang is in the post house and hasn't left, waiting to be called over upon your return, sir. He told this lowly one to wait here, and if I saw you come back, I was to first ask if you want to see him, then invite him over." Tang Fan nodded. "Go and bring him over." Compared to Chen Luan, Yang Ji was a little unpresentable. He was not yet 40 in age, yet his hair had already gone half white, and it wasn't from stress. Some people were simply born to age prematurely. Because of his thin figure, a lot of traces of hardship had been invisibly added to him, too. "This humble official is the South's Hilly Patrolling Censor, Yang Ji, and I send my greetings to you, Left Metropolitan Censor Sir Tang," Yang Ji said with a bow. "You don't need to be so polite, Censor Yang." Tang Fan waved him off. "Come sit. San'er, bring tea." Tang Fan and Yang Ji had no friendship, nor were they about to talk nonsense in circles. As soon as they were seated respectively, he asked, "Is there something urgent?" Yang Ji cupped his hands while seated. "This humble official went to inspect Kunshan County before and was unable to meet with you, sir. After my return, I heard that you looked for me, so I went to visit you, only to find that you two have gone off to Wujiang. Thankfully, I didn't miss you again this time. I know you're here to investigate Wujiang's famine, and I happen to have things to report on it." Tang Fan picked up his gaiwan and took a sip, nodding. "Say them, then." "I was ordered to garrison in Suzhou Prefecture. Last year, Lake Tai overflowed and the lost crops in Wujiang, Wu, and other places caused many lives to be lost. After I went to all of those areas, I discovered that Wujiang's condition was the most severe. At the time, I was reckless, and without any investigation, I decided that Chen Luan had neglected his duties and delayed disaster relief, which is why I sent a memorial denouncing him." With that, he sighed. "As it was, I later confirmed it to be my error. Tang Fan set his gaiwan down, rapping his knuckles lightly against the table. Oh? You were wrong? How so? Rather than neglect his duty, Chen Luan actually did it thoroughly, and has already done all he could. He moved every one of the refugees to the city's south, then resettled many that had come from Wu, only for the provisions allocated by Suzhou to not have been enough. For this, Magistrate Chen was forced to empty the county granary and borrow from wealthy merchants in the city, which I witnessed firsthand. This is why I now feel my previous denouncement to have not been very proper. Were Magistrate Chen to lose his black hat over this, it will be on my conscience for all my life, so please see the light, sir. Tang Fan hummed. So, you're saying that you think Chen Luan has not only not gone overboard but has merit? Yang Ji shook his head. Whether he has merit or not is not something I dare to decide. I just hope that you can find out the truth and report it to the court. I am willing to sign my name alongside yours to make up for the mistake I made earlier. Tang Fan smiled. Whether you've made a mistake or not is yet to be determined. As a censor, it is your right to denounce every department, and be an annotator of every official that is contemptible, greedy, and corrupt. In every case, you must be iron-faced and selfless, keeping everything in order. Where's the error in that? Yang Ji was taken aback. Your implication is, that Magistrate Chen is still in the wrong. Tang Fan's gaze fell to the color of the tea, as if a flower was blooming there. Yang Ji waited for a long time, then couldn't wait any more, asking, Sir? Sir Tang. The other seemed to wake up from a dream. What did you just say? Tang Fan smiled in embarrassment. We just got here yesterday, then ran off to Wujiang today. I'm a little tired and distracted. Yang Ji had a face full of understanding. You should take care of your health, sir, he said sincerely. Tang Fan couldn't help but yawn. Pardon my laughable performance. Go on, he apologized. Yang Ji was forced to repeat what he had said. What you imply just then, sir, is something this humble official doesn't understand too well. Can you please elaborate? What was it that I just said? You said me being wrong about Magistrate Chen is yet undetermined. Right. What's the issue? Whether he was at fault or not is for the court to decide upon. I'm an imperial ambassador, but even I can only report on what I've seen and heard. Yang Ji really had no way of telling if Tang Fan was playing dumb or if he was actually dumb. He had never interacted with him before, but the other had repeatedly solved cases and was known for his judgments. When he had been in Xianghe County in particular, a child had died in a well and everyone had thought that it had been an accident, or that someone had pushed her, only for Tang Fan to find evidence on the body that determined that she had first been killed, then thrown in. It was precisely that case that had spread his name around. Looking at him now, though, he seemed to be more suitable for being a judge than for running off here to mix in the water. Yang Ji felt that this man didn't live up to his reputation, and faintly looked down upon him. Although, on that note, with what was happening right now, a stupid imperial ambassador that wasn't paying attention was obviously much better than an intelligent and competent one. Yang Ji smiled. You are correct, but however you plan to write your memorials, why not let this humble official see them first? That way, I can follow close behind you and not go on the wrong path. Saying so, he took a memorial out of his pocket, then offered it up with both hands. This is the memorial I've redrafted over these past days. Please look it over, sir. Tang Fan took it and placed it to the side. I will. If you're free tonight, let's have dinner together, and we can discuss at the table. Those were exactly the words that Yang Ji had hoped for, as his smile grew all the more sincere. I will wait for your summons in the other courtyard, sir. As soon as Yang Ji was seen off, Lu Lingzi came back on his heels. Why are you back so soon? Tang Fan asked. Lu Lingzi grinned. I dared not stay back for too long, and spurred back full speed after I learned about everything, afraid that you'd have no one to order about here. Before they left Wujiang, Lu Lingzi had followed Tang Fan out of the city, only to circle back in, do what Tang Fan had instructed him, then run back out. Qian San'er curled his lips. What do you mean, no one to order about? Am I not someone? But you have no skills. What if Brother Tang ended up running into danger? Qian San'er's humiliation turned into rage. Who said I have no skills? My skills were learned from the commander of the Northern Administrative Court Division. Do you know who he is? So it's the commander's apprentice that couldn't last 3 moves against me. Qian San'er's heart immediately shattered all over the ground. All right, quit messing around. Tang Fan picked up the memorial and opened it. A piece of paper floated down out from inside it, and before it landed on the ground, Lu Lingzi caught it between 2 fingers. It's a banknote, for 10,000 taels, Lu Lingzi said, awed. The descendant of a wealthy family like him had been nurtured well since childhood, and he was not someone whose eyes would be blinded by money. In order to make him feel moved, the amount on any banknote had to be massive. It has a Mokang notation, and the silver can be withdrawn on sight. That's a lot. Banknotes were more convenient to carry around than pure silver as it was not easily pilfered, and a must-have for gifts and bribes. For that reason, following the former Song dynasty's wisdom and the great Ming's founding, silver notes like this had gradually become popular. Native banks in this age were all backed by big merchants. It was not being run by a single merchant but rather of one big merchants association. For example, the renowned Huatong banknote in the capital had Shaanxi merchants backing it, while the Mokang banknote had Yangzhou merchants backing it, supposedly. Each native bank had its own unique anti-counterfeit measures. On the one Lu Lingzi held, the characters had all been made with an ink that had special materials in it, and as long as it was placed under sunlight, the writing could show off its luster that differed from common ink. There was also a half seal on the note, which would be matched up with the stub on the bank's end to form a full seal. Hearing that amount, Tang Fan recalled that when he had been investigating the Marquis of Wuhan estate case, Huanyi Tower's Miss King II had been worth a few thousand taels. Since that was the case, was his own current worth about twice of that of the number 1 courtesan of Huanyi Tower? Thinking such, Master Tang, who had some sort of slight deficiency in his brain, started laughing. Brother Tang, why are you laughing? Lu Lingzi asked inquisitively. While smiling, Tang Fan recalled the memory to them. The Marquis of Wuhan estate case? I know something of that, Lu Lingzi said. I heard that there was a huge row and they verified that there was more than one group that killed Zheng Cheng. Tang Fan nodded. That's a correct assessment. One group was his little brother and his concubine collaborating, the other was his primary wife paying off a prostitute from Huanyi Tower to kill him. Though, after his death, it was difficult to identify the cause of his sudden demise, and perhaps it was due to what both groups did. Sins from past lives must have caught up to him. Not only did his brother wanted him dead, but even his wife did. Being in such a situation is much too tragic. So, you were the one who investigated that case? Lu Lingzi exclaimed, excited. I've heard of it before. The estate had believed that he had passed on due to being very lecherous, while an official later staunchly searched through layers of clues to find both groups of killers. Turns out that official was you. That case had been the first bizarre, noteworthy one that Tang Fan had handled since starting off on his career path, but it was not the one he had become famous for. It was not surprising that Lu Lingzi hadn't known. Tang Fan smiled and shook his head at him. Actually, the Marquis of Wuhan was not as incompetent as you might be imagining. He knew that there was something suspicious about his son's cause of death, but he didn't want implications that were too far-reaching, so he wanted to play down the situation and the people involved in it. I was young and reckless at the time, insisting upon shining a light upon the case, and had turmoil come up from behind. The estate lost a son and a daughter-in-law because of me. When its people see me nowadays, they straight up take a detour. My career path having several ups and downs was said to be related to how I seemed to be throwing rocks at them while they were down. Regardless of why the decedent died or what he did while he lived, getting to the truth was something that should have been done. Whatever their attitude is has no bearing on whether you did something wrong, Brother Tang. You didn't. Tang Fan stared at him deeply for a moment, then nodded with a smile. You're right. I didn't. In the other's eyes, there looked to be a confirmation of his attitude, approval of his viewpoint, and a barely there sense of knowing him well. This caused Lu Lingzi's pulse to quicken, his mood instantly lifting up high. So, someone like you is soft on the outside, tough on the inside. The more complicated a situation gets, the more others menace you, and even though you seem to draw back, in reality, you've long had a plan in mind. Tang Fan grinned. Tell me, then. What is my plan? Lu Lingzi wasn't sure what was wrong with him, but every single time the other smiled at him like that, he would unwittingly go dumbstruck seeing it, and he would not snap out of it until Tang Fan spoke again. Display weakness to let your opponent relax their guard, then secretly go back to investigate what you want to. Tang Fan's eyes betrayed his praise. He had not met many youths that were as intelligent as Lu Lingzi before. Others going unmentioned, his former brother-in-law had been known as a child prodigy in his youth, and his intellect had definitely been no lesser than Lu Lingzi's, but the latter's praiseworthy traits lied within his strong abilities to learn and adapt. Because of his travels, he was also far more experienced than most scholars who shut themselves within their homes, capable of both literary and martial feats with a more open-minded thought process. No wonder Huayan had recommended that he help. There had likely been the thought to have Tang Fan help guide him, too. After all, no matter how valued Huayan was in the imperial family, he was just a eunuch. There were many things that were inconvenient for him to do. Letting Lu Lingzi forge a connection with Tang Fan would aid in the former's future career growth. No matter what else, Tang Fan did indeed get a mind to cherish a talent. Correct. He wasn't going to keep him in suspense anymore. It looks to be that Yang Ji is now on Chen Luan's side. His words were wrapped with intent to exempt Chen Luan from responsibility. Patrolling censors have huge authority, but their positions aren't high, and Jiangnan is wealthy, but Yang Ji did not come from a wealthy family. Him easily taking out 10,000 taels of silver to bribe me with is clearly not possible, so that banknote had to have been taken from Chen Luan to give to me. Qian San'er was confused. Since they're in the same group, why did they denounce each other? Maybe the two of them didn't get along before, and are now colluding. Lu Lingzi guessed. Or they want Brother Tang to speak nicely of them in front of His Majesty. Even though he was smart and had seen much of the world, he was not actually in bureaucracy, having not much grasp on the twists and turns inside it. Tang Fan shook his head. There's no need for baseless guesses right now. Qian San'er will stay in the post house tonight. Yuking, you'll go with me to a place. Qian San'er scratched his head. Don't you have dinner with Yang Ji tonight? Tang Fan side-eyed him. It'll be after. Lu Lingzi already understood Tang Fan's plan, grinning while rubbing his palms. Good idea, brother. When night just fell, Tang Fan sent someone to invite Yang Ji over, then footed the bill in having a post-house worker buy a good feast from outside. He spoke and drank with Yang Ji alone, never about serious business but only talk about trite affairs. Yang Ji had an unsullied name, he was not fond of wealth, only reputation. Tang Fan could make out as much. 2 out of his every 3 sentences didn't stray from his appreciation of the common good, incorruptibleness, and frankness. He spoke until he had a floaty air about him, even. Under the wine's assistance, he seemed to view himself as having become a savior that pulled the common folk out of all sorts of perils and set them upon those bed mats, and that without him, the great Ming Dynasty would have been sunk into a situation it couldn't get out of, and would need a competent official to come save it. Still, he did not forget his goal. Availing himself of a drinking interval, he had to ask, "Did you ever read this humble official's memorial, sir?" Tang Fan smiled, looking satisfied. "I did. It's well written." To those not in the know, they were not genuinely speaking of the memorial, but in reality, Yang Ji's implication was, "Did you get the banknote folded into it? Is the amount to your liking?" While Tang Fan's implication was, "I did, and it is." Then, he heard Tang Fan say, "I personally went to look at Wujiang." Magistrate Chen really did do the utmost of his responsibilities. Meanwhile, the Suzhou magistrate, ever since I came here, has only paid a visit to me once, even avoiding me when I came to his door. It was uniquely detestable. If the amount of provisions allocated to Wujiang wasn't enough, he likely won't be able to shirk his connection to that. As he had expressed his stance, Yang Ji finally relaxed. "You are wise, sir. Magistrate who covers the sky with one hand, and everything in Suzhou is his final say. My position is humble, with what I'm able to do ultimately limited. Now that you're here, I finally have a pillar of support. I am willing to send a memorial up with you rather than leave you to fight the war alone." Tang Fan laughed. "All right, come on. Drink, drink." With an atmosphere like this, their dinner was most enjoyable. Yang Ji had a moderate amount of alcohol, yet he was getting poured some by Tang Fan over and over again. Before the banquet was done, he fell headfirst under the table. Tang Fan staggered to his feet and pulled him up. "Brother Huimin." Yang Ji gave a barely audible mumble, not even lifting his eyelids. Tang Fan reached out to support him, then accidentally stumbled a little, pressing most of his weight down onto Yang Ji. The other still didn't make a peep. It was obvious just how drunk he was. Tang Fan narrowed his eyes for a short time. Seeing that he really had drunk himself into a puddle of mush, he gently rapped on the table. A moment later, people pushed the door open from outside. It was Lu Lingzi and Qian San'er. Tang Fan said nothing, only lifting his chin. "The other two got it?" Qian San'er helped Yang Ji up and walked out, simultaneously saying, "Sir Yang, this lowly one will bring you back to rest up." Lu Lingzi came over to support Tang Fan meanwhile, whispering, "Yang Ji only has one boy servant at his side, and if he has to look after him, he definitely won't have the spare time to care about us. Qian San'er will pretend that you're still in the post house on his end. As for the people watching us, there's only 2 outside right now, and they'll be easy to shake off. We won't go through the rear entrance later on but jump straight over the wall." Lips pursed, Tang Fan whispered, "I won't be jumping over any walls." The other pinched his waist. "No worries, I'm here." "Where are you putting your hand?" "Take it away," Tang Fan coughed. "How could I carry you if I took it away?" Lu Lingzi asked innocently. "Don't talk so much, you're still drunk and need to get that noticed." Saying so, he slightly raised his volume. "Sir, relax a little, watch your step, hey." "Sir, I'm not your chunner. Don't rub my waist, that tickles." Tang Fan rolled his eyes. That night, Tang Fan and Yang Ji had gotten massively drunk, and didn't part to sleep until late in the evening, likely not about to get up before the sun was high in the sky tomorrow. On another end, 2 people disguised as ordinary civilians departed the post house in secret, heading for Wujiang County. The gate of the county capital was closed at night, never to be opened unless there was an urgent military situation. The pair had no interest in climbing the gates. Stuff like that only showed up in stories and legends, as the reality was that the act was way too troublesome, and very easy to notice. For that reason, they quietly walked all the way to the outside of the city, mixed in with the citizens that wanted to enter in the morning, and peacefully waited for the gates to be opened. They wore coarse clothes that looked no different from those of ordinary peoples, but their appearances and presences would not change because of what they were wearing. Their faces would stick out when standing amongst ordinary people, and they had just been to Wujiang in the daytime, meaning that the guards at the gates might recognize them. Thus, Lu Lingzi had slightly modified their looks, drawing their eyebrows to make it thicker, making their complexions waxy yellow, pasting facial hair on, and adding some wrinkles to the forehead and corners of the eyes so that they weren't too remarkable looking, and no one would be able to recognize them. Tang Fan was unfamiliar with this trick. Is this face changing? Lu Lingzi shook his head. This isn't in the same vein as face changing, but similar to how a woman does makeup. The face changing technique is more refined, as in addition to changing one's face, they could change their hair, figure, and even go from male to female or female to male. That disguise was genuinely hard to detect. Tang Fan recalled how Li Man had quietly swapped identities with his son and fled disaster, then also recalled how Li Zilong had disguised himself as Chuiunzi, and nodded. That's true. Lu Lingzi looked at Tang Fan. He had changed skin tone and gained a beard, but that actually gave him some allure. It could be imagined that when Tang Fan grew a beard for real and regained his look of a pale-faced scholar, he would be even more handsome than he was now. Still, Brother Tang, even when you look like this, you still look good. Tang Fan glared at him. Don't always be speaking so irreverently to your elders, Sprout. I'm your father. They were currently disguised as a father and son. As Tang Fan had a mature bearing, he could pretend to be a middle-aged man with a beard. Lu Lingzi wouldn't be able to do that no matter how he disguised himself, so he could only stick to his true colors. His present appearance wasn't as handsome as it had been before, but his sallow complexion made him seem a few years younger, like an impoverished lad who had been undernourished for a long period of time. He smiled at that, leaning in close to Tang Fan. Adai, we both have the same Qing in our courtesy names. Is that not a karmic tie from a previous life? They were standing at the base of a wall with other commoners beside them. In order to not draw attention, they were quite close, with Tang Fan nearly able to feel the other's warm breath whenever he spoke. This was straight up, blatant flirting. Tang Fan had no idea how to react, unsure of whether to get mad or be amused. He stroked his bread, completely serious. Why say that? That we're father and son is obviously a karmic tie from a previous life. Your dad is a little tired from standing, so come massage my feet for me. He had thought that Lu Lingzi would draw back, but the man actually said all right with a grin, then reached out and kneaded Tang Fan's waist. The latter smacked away his mitts. I said massage my feet, not knead my waist. Lu Lingzi blinked. Waists also get sore from standing for a long time, so that should be kneaded first. Your waist is thinner than mine, Adai. Tang Fan was simply beside himself from how thick-skinned this man was. Luckily, right then, the city gates finally, slowly opened. Tang Fan got serious, pulling down the conical hat on his head. We should do our job. Right. Lu Lingzi tactfully took his hand back, picked up his pole that had baskets loaded with pears on either end, then followed Tang Fan into the city. Afterwards, they found an unmanned alleyway, set down the baskets, and headed for the city's west. The city's west gate led to Lake Tai, yet Tang Fan had always gone through the east gate before this. Chen Luan had brought him to the city's south when he led him to examine the refugees, while the city's west had never been approached. Now, Tang Fan was hidden from everyone's eyes and ears, bringing Lu Lingzi here to personally check whether Chen Luan had lied or not. From a distance, they saw the gate of the city's west shut up tight, with soldiers patrolling around it. When Tang Fan had ordered him to double back before, Lu Lingzi had already fully asked around. The actual settlement for the refugees ought to be outside the city. This gate is only for exiting, not entry. Following the disaster, plagues were rampant, and to avoid it from spreading, Chen Luan ordered for all those infected to be driven out of the city. They were settled together outside along with the refugees. They have only one meal of congee a day, and more die out there, so the authorities send people daily to collect the corpses. Because they worry that the bodies would spread the disease, they basically all get burned. When it came to handling plagues, authorities had always carried out the isolation method. Tang Fan couldn't nitpick that fault, but Chen Luan had known that he had come to patrol Wujiang and refused to bring him to see the actual settlement site of the refugees, instead putting on a charade and trying to get his mouth sealed up via Yang Ji. There had to be something else off with this. Since you've said that, will it be difficult for us to go out and take a look? Tang Fan asked. Lu Lingzi shook his head. The opposite, it will be really easy. We can mix in with the people collecting the bodies, and those officials responsible for the collection. Pretty much no one wants to take on the task, so they even hire ordinary people to do it. The soldiers guarding the city, too, as long as no refugees want to get in, they won't care. Follow me. He brought Tang Fan to the county bureau and they went into the side house next to it, where several people were sitting in a circle, drinking tea and chatting. The instant they entered, Lu Lingzi smiled ingratiatingly and said, "Gents, we've come for some jobs." One amongst them munched on melon seeds. Jobs? There's only one job, go out of the city and burn corpses, 30 coins per trip. Are you doing it? Yes, yes. Thank you for your great kindness, mister. Lu Lingzi hurriedly answered. The others sized them up. Their postures were bowed, heads lowered. He huffed in satisfaction, clapping his hands and saying to his companions, "You all keep talking. Save some melon seeds for me and don't eat them all, I'll be right back." Then, he said to Lu Lingzi and Tang Fan, "Come with me." They followed him all the way to the west gate, convening with a group that was already waiting there. Beside them were some flatbed carts with firewood stacked in them, as well as a few sets of cloth wraps. "You lot remember that whenever you're dragging corpses, you need to wear these wraps that cover your mouth and nose," the bureau clerk said to them. "You can't touch the corpses directly. Come back immediately after you're done burning. I'm giving you all one shishan, any later, and the gates won't open anymore." Clearly, it was not the first time these other folks had done something like this. Everyone just agreed. The clerk left after his explanation. Tang Fan and Lu Lingzi pushed one of the carts, following the rest out of the city. The gate was a boundary line. In the wake of its slow opening, Tang Fan saw a world completely unlike that of what was inside the city. That was to say, the underworld had come to the living world. In the open areas outside, scattered all about, sitting or laying down, were densely packed people all over. Some were groaning, and some had their eyes tightly shut, but without a single exception, their faces were entirely blank. Even if they saw Tang Fan's group dragging away the corpses of their relatives right next to them, they didn't move at all. Their eyes just vacuously flitted over them, remaining at an imaginary distance. This was the true resettlement site. There were no doctors, no medicine. The total number of refugees from both Wujiang and Wu had to have added up to several thousands, but in this moment, there couldn't be more than 1,000 here. A lot of them had likely died prior to this. Their sole hope was a small amount of daily congee delivered by the authorities using a basket hanging from the gate, but it wasn't enough for everyone to eat. In the rush, those infected or physically weak would be the first to get washed out. Due to being worn down day after day, having only a faint hope of being able to survive this, many refugees had lost their fighting spirit for charging the gates or their thoughts to leave, only able to wait for death to welcome them. The issue was that if there had been enough congee and medicine to begin with, none of this would have happened. In other words, Chen Luan, in his governance, had not elected to appease the refugees but had instead left them alone to die and survive up to fate. This was the truth that he hadn't wanted Tang Fan to know. As more and more people died, after not too long a time, the evidence here would be erased forever. Chen Luan had deceived the court, Yang Ji had assisted him in the abuse, and Hu Wenzhao had kept quiet. If even Tang Fan sent a memorial saying that all was well, no one in the future would ever know what had taken place here. Everything in front of Tang Fan deeply shocked him. Never before had he seen a local official be so brazen. On one side, he was working in tandem with Yang Ji, striving to manufacture the illusion that he had already done all he could to help, while on the other side, he was slaughtering the commoners under his jurisdiction, in a way that didn't use blades. End chapter.